to another edition of The Naked Truth. My name is John Singletary.
And I am Ramon Roan.
And today we're going to talk about capitalism in the black community versus black capitalism. And we know that they're two different things. Capitalism in the black community could mean anybody, whether you're Jewish, taking advantage of the system of capitalism in the black community.
Or you're Oriental, opening up those hair shops.
Hair shops, gas stations,
right.
Beauty salons, nail shops. We understand that capitalism is the economic system that allows trade of an industry, whether it's means of production, you're controlled by private individuals for profit. So, you know, you're taking trade in an industry and it's a means of production, controlling the allocation of resources and those kind of things within the community for profit. And here we want to understand what black capitalism should be, because it's an economic system that deals with the production, distribution, allocation of goods and services, as well as allocation of resources like jobs and those kinds of things. Then we ought to understand how it happens within a community, the benefits of being able to control and be integrally involved in owning the capitalistic society within your own community.
And which is vitally important given today's economy, particularly the black economy, or how high the unemployment rate is, how low the labor participation rate is. It's very important that we create more African American or black owned businesses, because those businesses have a tendency of hiring more African Americans, which there's a desperate need in having those job opportunities, because both you and I have worked in corporate America, and we know the glass ceiling. That's it.
I worked in corporate America for 20 plus years, and particularly it's very polarizing when you see summer jobs where 99% of the young students that come in and get paid extremely well in the summer are non-African American, non-Latino. I go back to one year when I was actually in school at the Citadel, and I worked a summer job, and once it was found out that I was in school at the Citadel, I was a summer employed student, they literally increased my pay almost 4 times what it was. Just because they knew then that I was trying to get through school.
Right.
Now, the others who were there, they came in with that higher rate of pay.
Right.
And so those are the kinds of things that we can do when we own our own jobs in our community and when we give back to the community. It's unfair for us to think that we're going to go into someone else's system that they built from the ground up and to get equal treatment, equal opportunity for ourselves, our family, as well as our youth coming along. It's just not going to happen. Now, we're not saying that there should be complete separation. What we're saying is that there's a benefit to black capitalism within our community when we own our own businesses.
It reminds me of the Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get into the atrocities of it, but you think about just the fundamentals of it, of having a community where the dollar get flipped over and over and over in that community.
That was black capitalism at its best.
The best.
At its best.
And we have yet to duplicate that. We have yet to duplicate that here in America today.
And that's sad. Oftentimes we hear like the Gap Band, which the song You Dropped the Bomb on Me, dealing with Greenwood Orchard and Pine Street, dealing with Tulsa, came about, and most people don't know the history behind it.
Right.
But it's just so rich to understand that they're making a statement and they're trying to tell our youth, and they're telling stories about black capitalism that we need to pay close attention to. And that gets us, you know, to another subject, which when we take a look at black capitalism and when we take a look at the fact that we try and look up to the leaders in our community, we try and take the stance that our politicians, our doctors, lawyers in the community, which are by and large putting back in the black community, and that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
But it's unfortunate within the last 10 or 15 years, it seems to have been a change in the shift when it comes to the contribution that's made by the people that we quote call leadership.
Right, right.
And there has to be a redefinition of who are leaders in our community.
Right.
Who are providing jobs,
Right.
giving back, that kind of thing.
We are not, we would like to see more African American politicians who are supporting and encouraging, not just behind closed doors, but are publicly encouraging more minority participation in government contracts and in creation of businesses. However, we don't see that. We don't see that with our black politicians. We don't even see that in our black civil rights organizations. But there needs to be an effort if we want to turn this around, because Malcolm X, as you heard in the clip earlier, Malcolm X was saying the same thing in the 60s.
It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed.
Right.
I mean, we have to get to the point where, like this show is a start to tell people you need to join this movement, that we are looking at trying to have more black businesses in our African American community, and the people who are in position to help with that, like politicians, who, when it comes to contracts, hiring people for the summer, those are things that they need to make issue with when it does not happen, whether you're taking a look at your state procurement issues that come up in the General Assembly. There needs to be something that addresses the idea of greater capitalism by African Americans in the African American community.
Now, when we're talking about black-owned businesses and black corporations, it's not anti-white. But a black-owned business, a black-owned corporation, what it does, it strengthens all of American economy. That's going to be less African Americans that are incarcerated, less that are on welfare, and more that are contributing to this country. But so it's not, don't think that this is just about a black thing to where we pro-black and what have you, but this is pro-American. This will help American economy to where there are businesses that are minority owned that are contributing to the advancement of this country.
Sure, because pro-black is not the same thing as anti-white.
No.
So don't get those two mixed up. The same way non-African Americans tend to hire more people and tend to circulate money within their same community, African Americans need to recognize and support the benefits of the same process. That you circulate money within your own community. If you have more capitalism in your community owned by people in your community just like you, then the chances are your community does better, and then there is more of a mutual respect, and as a result there is more of a cooperative spirit between all races in America, and that's a good thing. It's never good when one organization cannibalizes on another and simply uses them as a lower level form of labor. And so black capitalism helps to bring you to the table as a mutual component or element in the solution to whatever problem there is.
And we mentioned about the government contracts. Those government contracts could be a springboard to a minority-owned business to where they won't need it's just a start, so they can branch out into something else to where there's more dependent upon the private economy instead of the government contracts.
Sure. Oftentimes the government contracts, it becomes the staple that allows you to break even, pay the bills, and then over and above that is when you get into doing your private contracts and you providing additional services within the community, dealing with production and dealing with distribution and allocation of resources for goods and services. And so the good thing is that if you can get the government contracts, and we should get government contracts, there's over $800 million a year, and $800 billion, I'm sorry, in government contracts alone. And so those opportunities are there, but we don't want to completely rely on those. We want to be able to have an economic system in which it supports itself, and that's recirculating money within our own community, because we produce, we distribute, we goods and services, and we allocate resources in order to continually make that happen. That's what makes it a system. An economic system is because it literally takes care of and it feeds itself.
Right. And those government contracts, a business may start out with the government contracts, and they become, just as they grow, those government contracts, that their revenue from the government contracts become less and less to where it's a small percentage.
It's a smaller percentage of the overall.
Right.
One of the other things that we need to take a look at is, we need to give props to people who have redefined leadership, and they're actually doing that. Magic Johnson is one. He provides lots of jobs within the African American community, and we probably hear him more, but there are a lot of other people who do the very same thing. Oprah does the same thing, and so there are a lot of other individuals who have lived the definition of leadership within our community. They're just not out front with the title.
Well, we do not have the Malcolms and the Martins anymore.
No, hairdressers, barbershops. There's a lot of smaller, different industries and businesses where they are providing jobs. Those are people who are leading our community because they're helping with the black capitalism.
Right.
And so
on a national, but we do have, well, unfortunately, we don't have a national leader, such as what we had in Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. However, and you're right, we have local leaders, but if we're going to probably need more of those local leaders that are being willing to share what they know, so somebody else, and there are people out there, because I've met them, there are black individuals that are out there that are trying to share what they know so that another person can have their business.
Sure. If we had to have, we don't have a national agenda. Back then, the national agenda was all encompassed in civil rights, making sure that judicially we had the right to be able to garnish equality out of the American judicial system. If we had to have a single, even though in some instances we're slipping back, we're losing foothold on civil rights, but if we had to have a single agenda for America, I think, it's just a personal opinion, but I think that black capitalism ought to be that single agenda, an economic system that will embrace and draw African Americans into the process of producing, distributing goods and services and allocating resources within the community.
Yeah.
Sure.
Manufacturing. So, as we close out, it is so vitally important that we give our young people an opportunity, and nothing greater than an opportunity than being able to work for your own money. And so, by us focusing on the black economy and our black leadership, by us focusing on that, it creates a different future for us right now.
Having said that, this has been another edition of
The Naked
Truth, and we hope to see you at the next edition.
Please be sure to like us, subscribe, and please comment. We appreciate all of your comments. God bless.